I'm at home watching my son. We got like this big, like 6 by 6 foot play yard thing in the living room that the baby plays in. And just sitting in there with the baby playing, and the TV's right there. So I'm like, let me find a free copy of this to watch, and I'll just watch it just for the heck of it. This was worse than the first one. The first one at least had you were introduced to the world, so there's that, I guess. You visited different locales, so there's that, I guess. And that's about it. This one, you were basically in the same place for the whole movie. The the Seven Samurai story continues, where, and mentioned this in my last random rant about the first one. It, the plan, because the plan never made sense. There were like 4 people or 5 people or something like that at the end of part one, and they were gonna go back to the village and fight a galaxy. I'm sorry, an army that controls the whole galaxy. None of these people are robots or have superpowers or nothing. They're just regular people. And the plan was, let me get some regular flesh and blood men and women, and together we'll stop an army that is strong enough to control the whole galaxy. So they go back. They're in the village, and the people are like, "Oh, look, the soldiers that are going to help us are here," and they meet them. And the last random rant, I wrote down notes. I was too busy, hanging out with my son, so I wasn't taking any notes. But even if I wasn't, I wouldn't have taken any notes. I wasn't planning on making a random rant about this one. So they go in and that they find out, oh, the army's coming in 5 days. Okay, so the army's coming in 5 days, and they're like, we need to do the harvest so that we can have the grain. Because if we have the grain, that will force them to come down to the surface, and then we can fight them on the surface. How long is it going to take you to do that? They're like half a cycle around the moon or some shit like that. And I don't know. We don't know how long that is. Zack Snyder must be just drinking semen while he's writing these stories. We don't know how long I think they said, I don't remember the exact wording, but half a cycle around the planet. We don't know what measure of time that is. So the Jimon Hansu's like, well, we got 3 days. And they're like, oh no. And I'm like, is 3 days not enough? Or what is is that like 14 days? Or is that a month? Is I don't know what half a cycle around the planet is compared to 3 days. So I really don't. I guess it's a long time, but I wish I knew what the measure of time was so that I could have that thought in my head. But they were like, no, fuck it, just go with the story. So they're like, we got 3 days, which means they have 3 days and then another few days to train. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, Zack, this isn't real life. This is a story. Why didn't Zack Snyder just make the time frame longer so that they could have more time to train? Because now the story really doesn't make sense. These handful of soldiers are going to train these people in what, 3 days to fight an army that can control a galaxy? And again, because Zack Snyder is a dick sucking imbecile, he's stealing a story about a bunch of villagers fighting a small army of men with swords on horseback, and he uses that and tries to translate it over into a story about villagers fighting men with plasma rifles and ships with guns that can blow up an entire village in one shot. So Seven Samurai is believable because, there's just regular men with swords and, you can set traps for them and all that stuff and take them out. But this is different. These are intergalactic soldiers with futuristic space weapons like lightsabers and plasma rifles. And these people have sickles and hammers. So doesn't compare to the original story that he's stealing from. But anyway, they're going to train these handful of people to fight. What does the training consist of? Chopping at straw dummies with a sword. Dude, this shit is fucking. This shit was like a comedy. This was like. Okay. So the people come in, they're harvested, and we're forced to believe, or he's trying to convince us that they're on a time crunch. They got to get this stuff done as soon as possible because the army's coming, right? You got to get ready, you got to get prepared. And he's like, we got to do the harvest in 3 days. And they're like, oh my God, that's not nearly enough time, but we got to do it. Okay. Jump over to the next scene. These people are playing in the field with each other. The kids are playing and they're not working. They're like moving in slow motion. I'm like, what about the urgency of getting this harvested? I would have been like, kids, stop running around. Get in here and help. But no, it's just, I guess they forgot how urgent it was. So they're sitting around there playing in slow motion. They're sitting down and talking. They're having like dinner and they're having conversation with each other. I think the villagers make like these little placemats or flags or some shit for the people. I'm like, when did you have time to sew that shit? I thought you were supposed to be harvesting the fucking grain. Who was sewing this? Very nice, intricate little placemat thingies that they made for them. I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, dude, what's going on with Zack Snyder's brain? Is he retarded? These kids, who? So these people have this urgent quest to get the grain harvested and get trained. They have to do all this stuff in order to prepare their. If they don't, they're going to die. But the kids are out playing in the field, frolicking. There's a bunch of people knitting and sewing fucking memorial gifts for the soldiers that they just met. They don't know nothing about these people, but they make each of them like a personalized table mat or towel or some shit, whatever you want to call them things. Like you don't know anything about these people. How did you make something personalized for each of them? Then these fuckers have a party. Guys, army's coming. They're probably going to murder most of us. A lot of us probably going to get raped, kidnapped, maybe sold into slavery. Our lives are more than likely going to end. Most of us are going to die. Why don't we have a party to commemorate the event? So these people having like a party. They're having like conversations and jokes and they're sitting down. I'm like, we're supposed to believe that death is coming. But death is on its way, but none of the villagers seem to give a fuck. So should we care? People are playing. They're having a party. They're having dinner. They're knitting gifts for each other. They're having story time with each other. Shit is fucking. Then they start the training. The training, like I said earlier, consists of them swinging swords at some straw. I don't know how that's training. And then they do some rifle training. But it's not like gradual training, like, they're actually training them. No, they just give them rifles and all the women are like perfect shots. I'm like, did you need to be trained? They're all perfect shots. But fast forward to the battle, and I don't remember any of the women shooting anybody. All right. So I'm going to be a little bit all over the place because, again, I didn't take notes for this and I wasn't really paying attention. I actually didn't even finish the movie. Once the girl started fighting the bad guy at the end, I was like, all right, well, forget this. And speaking of the bad guy, dude, could he have made a worse villain? The villain, the doctors are trying to make sure that this villain guy, I don't even know his fucking name, is ready to do whatever. They're trying to help him get back to normal. And he's angry, so the bad guy and his general decide, well, let's murder one of the doctors. Let's just murder him because he's trying to make sure I'm healthy. We got it. He's the bad guy. We understand. All right, so let's go back to the fight. So they start to fight. The bad guys come down, and it's this like really dumb scene where the bad guy's having this dialogue with the woman, the main star girl, and they're talking. I'm not even paying attention. I'm trying my best to explain this, and I think he's like, "Look, if you come with us, then we won't kill them." And it's like this stupid scene, and where I'm standing there, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this guy's just standing out in the open. I mean, what kind of army is this? So she decides to go with them, but then one of the guys she's in love with, who I forgot to mention that there's like a love story between her and the guy that she traveled with from the first movie. And it is such a bad love scene, a relationship, because I don't even remember that these two people had feelings for each other in the first movie. There's no chemistry between these people at all. Sophia Boutella is a gorgeous woman, but she is not good in this type of. It's just she doesn't fit in this type of role, and this romantic role. She's just not made for it. I guess I don't know. She's just not that good of an actress because this didn't work. And I'm watching it and I'm remembering as a kid, I saw this original Star Wars trilogy when I was like in junior high school for the first time I saw the whole trilogy. And I remember very well, there's a very, very fond memories of that movie. And I remember very well the relationship between Leia and Han Solo. And as a little kid, as a junior high school student, as a middle school student, I could feel and understand the relationship between the two of them. When they put him in cryo and she's there and she's like, I love you, and he's like, I know. That scene resonates so much, even with children, because the writing is done so well and the acting is done so well, and you feel that relationship. You feel the tension between them. You feel the love between them. And then fast forward to this, I'm a full adult, and I don't see nothing. The writing is so horrendous that this pathetic, forced relationship, garbage, is just that. It's trash. And it's trash writing. And it's like just shoved in there because I guess he feels he's supposed to put it in there because there's supposed to be a love interest. I forgot to mention that. So anyway, they start fighting, and then just like dumb shit starts happening. It's supposed to be like this epic action scene, but it's not because stupid shit is happening. There is this guy, I don't even know his name. There's this villager who I guess is supposed to be important. He's like killing a lot of the soldiers, and then then he runs to the main bad guy. He's holding a rifle. He runs to the main bad guy, throws the rifle down, and tackles the main bad guy and starts fighting him with his fists. This is a war. Why don't you shoot him? What was happening here? So he drops the rifle and decides to fight hand to hand, gets his ass kicked, and dies. And I think we're supposed to care, but I don't know who this guy is. I don't know his name. I have no idea who this character is. Then the Asian lady with the lightsabers from the first movie, she gets into this fight. So let me set it up more. So you have all these soldiers getting off the ship. They all have plasma rifles, all the plasma assault rifles. When it comes time to fight the woman with the swords, for some reason, nobody got rifles. They all have swords now. I'm like, dude, she has swords. Shoot her. Shoot. It's like the story's not even written in a competent manner. Initially, I think they did start shooting at her, and she's blocking them. This lady don't have any superpowers. She doesn't have any abilities that we know of. So how would she be able to block fucking plasma rounds? With a sword. These. I think these fucking stories. So she's blocking rounds, and then all of a sudden it turns to, because now all the soldiers have swords instead of guns. Instead of surrounding her and just executing her, shooting her to death, shoot her in the back. No, no, because we need to have a fight scene, pull out the swords. Forget all the other futuristic weapons you have. Just pull out the swords. What other stupid shit went on? I, the main bad guy, the villagers built like this little tunnel, where they kind of surprise the soldiers and kill a lot of them. And the main bad guy jumps down into the tunnel and starts taking out all of the villagers in the tunnel. The villagers have guns with them, and this is like a little corridor. It's literally, it's like a small, tiny, tight hallway. They're still missing him. They're an infant, an infant who is blind and retarded would be able to hit this guy in that tight tunnel with a rifle. These guys are missing him. He's in the tunnel. You can't hit at the target. What happened to the 2 days of training that you had? I couldn't believe this fucking shit. All right. What else happened? I think that's basically it. I think I completely tuned out after that. Then you have they yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Then there's some robot tanks come, and there's this really awkward scene where Jimon Hansu and Turok the dinosaur hunter, they beat the first wave, and I guess they think that's the only wave, and so they start yelling, and then there's a pause. It's like this really weird, awkward scene where they like, yeah, and then they just stop. And then they look at the villagers and go, yeah. And the villagers are like, yeah. And then they realize it's a second wave, and then they fight and shoot, and I think somebody may die. Oh, the Asian lady dies, I think. Yeah, I think she gets stabbed. She's fighting all these people, and all of these villagers who they were supposed to train. There's literally, God, she's fighting one man. It's just one guy with a sword. And all of these villagers that they were supposed to train, there's literally like 20 of them. Like 20 people just sitting there watching her fight. And they watch him as he stabs her. They couldn't bum rush him, throw things at him to distract him. I mean, what happened to all the training? The 2 days of training that they had. This shit is fucking hilarious. This guy's like, we have to do the harvest, or they'll shoot us from the. They'll shoot if we don't do the harvest, then they'll shoot from the sky. Well, there was no transaction of grain or any conversation about grain or negotiation or nothing. You could have just cut down the wheat and threw that shit in a ditch somewhere. You didn't have to thresh the wheat and bag it and all that. You didn't have to waste your time doing that, because none of that meant anything into the story. They didn't. I don't remember them using it in the story, and so it really was just. I don't even know. I can't even comment on that. The girl's name is Scargiver. I guess they thought that would sound cool. I think they called her Scargiver because she gave the bad guy a scar, I think. Maybe I missed something, but I think he called her that because she scarred him. So now her name is the Scargiver. Is he the only person that has ever had a scar? I'm sure other people have gotten scars in other fights. Is that just what they call people if you beat someone up and give them scars? Then she goes on the ship, Oh, she's flying into, so she decides to go into the main ship and blow up the ship. So they get into a ship and they fly up and they pretend that the ship is damaged and that they've been wounded and that they need help. So she reaches out to the main ship on the comm system and she's talking to them. And she's like, she's explaining the situation. They're like, all right, soldier, come on in and we'll take care of it. And luckily they did mention it, I think. But I'm watching it and I'm like, this is literally an all male army. There's no women in this army. But there's a woman on the comms telling you, and you could tell it's a woman's voice, telling you that that there's an issue with the ship, and the guy's not questioning. He's not like, "Why is there a woman talking now? Who's this woman?" No, he's just like, "Come on in, ma'am." The fucking writing is so bad. And another thing about the army, you get the feeling that this is like a dig at the jealous small penis white supremacist alt right guys. You can tell that that's who they're trying to paint them as. And it's annoying seeing that. As much as I hate those types of losers, those pathetic dick sucking losers, and the alt right, as much as I hate them, I don't like propaganda that scapegoats certain groups to protect the wealthy. And that's what these types of movies and stories do. They're like scapegoat certain groups so that we don't look at the real problem. They want us to look at the symptoms of the real problem instead of the actual problem. So instead of these story writers writing stories about the corporations being bad, like it's kind of like what Star Wars did. This is like, no, we're gonna still work to pit the left versus the right. So this is just like it felt like a distraction propaganda film. And I just wanted to mention that because I'm watching. I'm like, I know these white guys are gonna get angry because they're being used to be portrayed as the villains, even though that's what they want to be. They want to be villains. So I don't know why you'd be upset, but I just wanted to mention that. So then she goes on the ship, and then she goes to like the main engine core, which is like a figure, like a some kind of sculpture of a human on its knees with its arms bound behind his back. Why would you make the engine core look like that? Whatever. She puts bombs on it, and then the engine core, which has eyes, looks at her. But that's it. So why did it look at her? What was that supposed to mean? Did that mean something? Were those just like cameras, or I thought the shit was gonna stand up or some shit? No, it just had eyes on it for some reason. It looked okay. All right. And then she fights, and it's the generic fighting again. People with assault rifles don't have good aim. She beats everybody up, and that's about it. Then you get to the robot that is voiced by Anthony Hopkins, and the robot, they don't explain why, but the robot has like a brain and it thinks like a human, or it seems like it has a conscience. Can't even think. It has consciousness and a soul. I can't. Was it supposed to be a living robot? Did it have a soul or something? The way it was talking, like it had experiences like a human. And I guess maybe I wasn't paying that much attention. And I guess the last thing I'll go over, which was, I think the best part of this movie was she's explaining towards the beginning. She's explaining how she killed the princess or some shit like that, and the flashback that she has of her killing or helping to kill the king and the queen and the princess is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. They 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 walk into this room, and there's like these people with bags on their heads and everybody's dressed in like this futuristic, galaxy sci-fi clothes, and these people have regular instruments, regular earth instruments, and they're wearing regular suits. I'm like, okay, and they have bags over their heads. I was like, did they kidnap these people from our galaxy or something? But I have no idea what that was supposed to mean. But you have some regular dressed people in chairs playing earth instruments in suits with bags over their heads. I don't know how they can see what they're playing, but whatever. So they're playing music, and they all come into the room, and then there's like a coup that's taking place, and the people with the bags over their heads were playing the whatever music that they're playing. I don't know why they're playing music, but they're playing music. They start to play a soundtrack to the scene. It's this weird shit. That's where they're murdering the king, and the people are playing music to go along with it. It's like this. where the workers were in on the coup, and they told them, "Look, when we start stabbing the king, I want you to play this track." It's just weird shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make this just because YouTube kind of shadow banned my first video, and I wanted to make this one. I didn't really pay too much attention. I think from because I stopped watching it after a while. I was like, this is just complete garbage. But I think there's supposed to be a part 3, which that one I'm not gonna watch. I wasn't gonna watch this, but I was like, what the hey? These movies are so horrendously bad that I'm not watching. I'm not watching the third one. But if you're looking for a good time, this is one of those movies that is so bad it's good. It's one of those movies where it's so bad. If you're sitting with a bunch of friends and you guys got some pizza, some Chinese food, some junk food, and you just want to hang out and have fun, put that shit on and laugh it up. This shit is fucking hilarious. That's how bad it is. But Zack Snyder once again, proving that if you suck the right dick, you're gonna get jobs. Because for some reason, people keep giving this motherfucker money and he keeps failing.